Numbers came out today that are really very mind-boggling if you happen to be Joe Biden. And I think they feel this is the way they're going to try and win. And that's not the way it goes. That'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and that's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And if you don't, as an example, if this case were lost on immunity, and I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. I'm working for the country. And I worked on very hard on voter fraud because we have to have free elections. We have to have strong borders. We have to have free elections. Those two things almost above all. And we found tremendous voter fraud. We have a list of it. We have some findings if you want it. The press doesn't like reporting it, but we found tremendous voter fraud, determinative voter fraud. But we worked on that. That's what I was doing. And they were talking about after. Well, nothing has to do with after I left. It was during the time. And that was what they really focused on today during the appeal. And they concede that, and everybody concedes that. And if it's during the time, you have absolute immunity.
Here's the thing. If you have anything worth saying, you usually don't need to descend into an unintelligible word salad where you throw out a bunch of buzzwords. You just make your point clearly and decisively. But because Donald Trump is spewing nonsense, well, this screed is what you're left with. Now, a few points here. Trump claims that you have to have immunity as a president. First of all, a president does enjoy immunity from civil claims, and rightfully so, but the notion that he can commit criminal acts with impunity effectively puts him, and only him, above the law. That's not a president, that is a king. The idea that Trump thinks that a president can't operate without criminal immunity, even though 44 presidents before him somehow managed to carry out their duties without having to worry about criminal prosecution, goes to show just how warped this guy's perception of reality is. Trump and Republicans also keep trying to make this point that prosecuting a former president is opening Pandora's box, that it's a slippery slope. But here's the thing. Fine. If the precedent becomes that presidents are prosecuted for outright violations of the law, then good. If Joe Biden does it, then he should be prosecuted too. That should be the standard for everyone, regardless of political party. I'm completely fine with that. But it's not some slippery slope, it's literally just following the law. And finally, he claims that he needs immunity because all he was doing was innocently working on voter fraud, which they purportedly found in massive numbers. Only small problem, if he found voter fraud, why not bring it up in any of the 65 cases that Trump and his allies brought forward in the aftermath of the election? I mean, hell, a bunch of those cases were in front of judges who Donald Trump himself appointed. You don't think if there was proof of fraud and that Trump was the rightful winner of the 2020 election, that those judges wouldn't have been receptive to his claims? In fact, I'll do you one better. Forget about the judges. What about Trump's own White House officials, a raft of whom testified that there was no fraud in the 2020 election? Even if judges weren't willing to humor Trump, you mean to tell me that his own White House colleagues weren't on board? Here's that testimony so that you can hear for yourself what these people had to say.
So do you know what the examples of fraud, numbers, names, and supporting evidence was that you sent to Mo Brooks's office? And when I say you, I mean you or the campaign.
There are some very, very general documents as far as say, for example, here are the handful of dead people in several different states. Here are explanations on a couple of the legal challenges, as far as saying that the rules were changed in an unconstitutional manner, but it was to say that it was thin is probably an understatement.
My recollection is the president said something like, "Well, we could get to the bottom." You know, some people say we could get to the bottom of this if the department sees the machines. It was a typical way of raising a point, and I said, absolutely not. There's no probable cause, and I'm not going to seize any machines. And that was that.
Yeah. Attorney General Barr made a public announcement on December 1st, less than a month after the election, that he had seen no suspended fraud, sufficient Fair to say that by December 1st, you had reached the same conclusion?
It's fair to say that I agree with Attorney General Barr's conclusion on December 1st. Yes, I did, and I supported that conclusion.
I want to start by asking if you agree, Mr. Cipollone, with the conclusions of Matt Morgan, of Bill Barr, of all of the individuals who evaluated those claims, that there is no evidence of election fraud sufficient to undermine the outcome in a particular state.
Yes, I agree with that.
Did you believe, and Mr. Cipollone, that the president should concede once you made a determination based on the investigations that you credited DOJ did and the campaign did you in your mind form a belief that the president should concede the election loss at a certain point after the election?
Well, again, I was the White House counsel. Some of those decisions are political, so to the extent that, but if your question is, did I believe he should concede the election at a point in time? Yes, I did. I believe Leader McConnell went onto the floor of the Senate, I believe in mid-December, and basically said, the process is done. That would be in line with my thinking on these things.
So either Trump appointed judges and Trump's attorney general and Trump's White House counsel and Trump's campaign staff all somehow ignored fraud that would have proven Trump actually won the election, or Trump was peddling bullshit and he's the only person not willing to admit it. Take all the time you need with that one. Now, this Trump tirade came in the aftermath of what ended up being a disastrous day in court for the Trump team. Because while they were arguing that a president has complete immunity while in office, the judges on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals panel pressed his attorney on the logical conclusion of that claim, which is that if a president can do whatever he wants and can't be prosecuted for it, what's to stop him from straight up assassinating his political rival? And yet, that went about as well as you could imagine.
Order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is
no. My answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate. In these exceptional cases, as the OLC memo itself points out from the Department of Justice, you'd expect a speedy impeachment and conviction. But what the founders were much more worried about than using criminal prosecution to discipline presidents was what James Madison calls in Federalist Number 47, the newfangled and artificial treasons. They were much more concerned about the abuse of the criminal process for political purposes to disable the presidency from factions and political opponents. And of course, that's exactly what we see in this case.
I've asked you a series of hypotheticals about criminal actions that could be taken by a president and could be considered official acts. And I've asked you, would such a president be subject to criminal prosecution if he's not impeached or convicted? And your answer, your yes or no answer is no.
I believe I said qualified yes if he's impeached and convicted first.
My question was, okay, so he's not impeached or convicted. Let's put that aside. You're saying a president could sell pardons, could sell military secrets, could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival.
Sale of military secrets strikes me as something that might not be held to be an official act. The sale of pardons is something that's come up historically and was not prosecuted.
But your brief says that communicating with an executive branch agency is an official act. And communicating with a foreign government is an official act. That's what presidents do.
Yeah, it's almost like not everyone in this country seems to be super keen on the idea of an all-powerful king in America. Who could have possibly guessed? So Trump will continue making these bogus arguments, but just remember, they are not coming from a place of strength, they're coming from a place of weakness, a place of fear and desperation, and most importantly, recognition that he is being held to account for his own actions. That he needs to stand there and suggest that a president is above the law, which is a legal theory so nakedly absurd that it's all but certain to get laughed out of the courtroom, is a testament to just how screwed this guy actually is. All he's going to accomplish here is a momentary delay before this is thrown out of the courtroom and his DC prosecution once again moves forward. Because while he might be high on his own supply, no one in the judiciary seems to be buying the nonsense that he's selling. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.